All right, looks like we're live. And of course, as soon as we go live, the dogs decide to pick it up in the background. So very nice. So as we get started, we'll just kind of talk here for a few minutes. Good morning, everyone. Thomas E. Davis, Republican candidate in the U.S. for the Republican candidate, the U.S. House of Representatives, Tennessee's 4th Congressional District. So like I said, it is the Republican primary that I'm running. It's where I'm a candidate. Now, that being said, this is a weekly live stream that we're doing. This is week number 2, just to kind of get to know each other. So if anybody, you pop on here, got questions, please jump into the chat and ask. So we'll give it a few minutes before I actually start doing anything of consequence, I guess. So see if we can listen to the dogs in the background a little bit more, see if they jump in. No, there's one. Perfect. So what I'm going to do, the first one in the chat here, I'll go ahead and we'll start that. That is a link to a podcast that I was on over the weekend, and that would have been on the 29th with the Patriot Punch, Chase Matheson and Daniel. Sorry, Daniel. But yeah, those two guys putting that together, and myself and fellow VFW member with me, Chris O'Connor, where we discussed the closing of the VA clinic, amongst some other things. So, like I said, that link is in there. Go check out that podcast. Pretty good stuff. I'm kind of biased, but still, I think it is. And apparently, I can't thumbs up myself. So, you jump on here if you would give the thumbs up, do the things as you check in. Or if you don't care, it's a thumbs up, do a thumbs down, whatever. It's your vote. Do what you think you need to do with it. That being said, so we do have a few topics to get into. What I'll do first of all is let's talk about my calendar and where I will be. I think tomorrow we're going to go to the concerts and stuff out here. That's she's pretty interested in doing that. It'll be a good place to go out and meet folks in Murfreesboro. So looking more towards the afternoon for that. We'll probably pop up on Facebook and let you all know when we're headed that way. But that's the big thing tomorrow. And then actually, I think tonight we are looking, and tonight being Friday, April 3rd, our church that we attend, Freedom Life Church in McMinnville, they are live broadcast of the Passion. So Cindy's wanting to do that. So we'll probably run out there and do that. And then Sunday is Sunday. Don't expect a lot of work out of me there. We'll go to church and then do some things around the house. Next week is actually we're starting to pick up a little bit. Hey, if any of you have events that you know of, you want me to attend, or if you're looking to schedule something for me to attend, a meet and greet, get some folks together that you know, let's sit down and talk. But so next week looks like Tuesday the 7th. I think we've scheduled this one. This is Politics in the Park. Pretty sure I will be at this one. I think we've actually already coordinated the set up a table. This is the event I'm thinking of, but that's out in Lawrenceburg, and so we'll put out some more information on that. And of course, there's the dogs again. If you can hear that. That's good stuff. And then on the 9th, we have the Bledsoe County Reagan Day dinner that we will be attending. All right, I am going to step away for just a second and let these dogs out, and we'll see how that works out for us. Perfect. Let's see how that works out for us. The neighbor dog was out. They wanted to go say hi. So there we go. All right, where are we at? Okay, so Bledsoe County Reagan Day dinner, and you can that is through their Facebook. I don't know if they have tickets left or not, but if you're out in that area, and these are pretty good to attend. And I know that one's actually those tickets are honestly pretty reasonable. So if you're out in that area and you want to come out and see the do things, it's actually they're actually pretty good events to attend. So if you are available and they still have tickets, I would encourage you to do that. And then, like I said, and I will be speaking at that event. And then the 10th is the 10th. Okay, I don't have it on here yet, but I will be. Is that the one? That I believe is the Coffee County Reagan Day dinner. Why do we not have this on? Um, and I will be at that one. And then there's also an think I'll have somebody out. There's an iFarm, I vote, meet the candidates deal going on out in Bedford, which I think I'll have somebody out at that. But yeah, I think the 10th is our Coffee County Reagan Day dinner. I will not be speaking at that one. Didn't make the cut, so it's all good. Hey, and that's how it goes. If you run these, you do a campaign. If you're not the incumbent as a candidate, especially within you're doing a primary challenge, sometimes they'll let you speak, sometimes they don't. It's part of the game. So, I'm not hating the players, I'm hating the game. But and some counties it's a lot to put on one of these Reagan Day dinners. So I'm fine. I'm certainly appreciative when the counties do allow candidates a few minutes to speak, and usually it's anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes that they'll let you get up there and bump your gums, show the difference between yourself and incumbent. So big shout out to all those counties that are putting them on or have put them on. So like I said, it's a lot of work. So, but that one I will not be speaking at. And then Saturday the 11th, we're out in Grundy County. That is in Tracy City, and it's the 411 Grundy County is what it's called. And I'm showing the address of 14399 US 41. And it's a meet and greet. So we'll be out there walking around doing things. So that's the week coming up. We'll fill some stuff in additionally about running around. We got some things we're looking to get after and do. So look for that stuff. Now, all right, if we get anybody jumping on here, drop some questions and yeah, whatever your questions are. I got a list of things that we can talk about, and we'll get into that stuff. But I just wanted to kind of run through that stuff first. What I did not do is the congressional calendar went a little weird. If you're tracking any of this stuff, they're supposed to be on a 2-week break, but and so that was supposed to have started last week. I think Thursday would have been the last day, Thursday or Friday, and then they're off for about 2 weeks. But if you're tracking the SAVE Act, the Senate had passed it and then kicked it over like at midnight, like they do, and then they kick it over to that was a Thursday night or very stupid early Friday morning. They kicked it over to the House, and so the House kind of dealt with it, and I believe they've been up there dinking around with some stuff in the SAVE Act, which these guys, this is some of the stuff that I talk about, leadership or lack thereof. For the Senate to be doing what they're doing, they're lazy, is what it comes down to. They're more interested in dog parades than they are about handling business. And this SAVE Act it's an 80% issue. Democrats, Republicans, independents, whatever. Most of us get the idea, grasp the concept that you must be a citizen to vote in our elections. And it is not an unreasonable ask that you show who you are, that I mean, again, run the list of the stuff that I need to show ID for. I go into to buy alcohol, I got to show ID. To buy a firearm, I've got to show ID and go through a background check. I mean, they with this stupid Patriot Act, they've compelled now, after 20 years, they want to start forcing this real ID nonsense on us. To get on an airplane, you got to have the real ID, you got to have the military ID works, and or passport. But to get on an airplane, you have to do this. But to vote, and all of a sudden, and then to believe that because somebody is female or black or brown or whatever, how racist or disingenuous you have to be saying that, oh my gosh, we're going to disenfranchise all these women that got married. No, you're not. Those women are perfectly capable and intelligent enough to go figure out the name change stuff. And how many times a year does the voting happen? And if you can't figure out how to do it, I'm of the opinion that you probably shouldn't be voting. I'm completely okay with that. But trying to make people vote just because, there's a level of effort on weaknesses and that needs to be had. And again, how many of these women that were married smoke? How many of them drive? You figured out how to vote on driver's license and change that. It's a nonsense thing to be talking about. So there we go. And speaking of that, one of the things I'll talk about right now since it popped up was the Supreme Court hearing our birthrights about the birthright citizenship case. And this came around, I believe, because the border come here, drop a kid, and then that kid's a citizen. That's a horrible idea. Never that. I mean, you go back to the original, the 14th Amendment and the discussion on that. That was never the intent. Again, this was post Civil War, the Reconstruction stuff. Never the intent that just because you drop a kid that means you're a citizen. So let's stop that nonsense. And how do we fix this? And this is more judicial tyranny. So let's say that the Supreme Court says, "Oh my gosh, yes, uh, you drop a kid, and that kid is a citizen." It's horrible. And I heard the analogy yesterday. Um, I want to say it was either Wilcow or one of those guys on Patriot XM. But he said, "What if?" So here's the deal. What if? And it's actually already happening, but not in these numbers. And this is the Chinese doing this in most cases, but this birthright tourism. So say that the Chinese line up uh, uh, boats, like cargo ships. They put 20 million pregnant Chinese women on there, and they come up and they drop them off on our shores. They like, pregnant women filtering out through our company, and these 20 million, and say we catch some of them, whatever. I'm going a little bit more into the story. But say drop these 20 million off, these 20 million women that have no allegiance, no ties, they're actually in the country illegally. Say they drop a kid, and now these kids are citizens and they take them back to China, raise them in China, and then the communist agenda, the communist program, and they bring them back. And next thing you know, that's the take off or the takeover from within. So it's absolutely ludicrous um, to say that just because you drop a kid here that anchor baby again that no that's a horrible idea, and if you're arguing for it you got something wrong with you. My analogy is my house. And I've heard that before, like, oh my gosh, that's different. No, it is not different. So if you come into my house, at some point you're going to leave unless I decide to let you stay, and if it turns into some kind of arrangement where you live in this house, then if you decide to act a fool, then you're going to leave. And that's what we've got now is all these people coming in, even people that we've gone through the process and have naturalized, they're acting a fool. If you're waving the flag of another nation, you are not holding allegiance to this nation. And that's part of the process. So since I'm doing this, I'm going to pull up my own live stream. Oh, there we go. Oh, no, that's the last one. Let me see. Where's my uh, okay. Yeah. All right. It's working. Can I hear it? Okay. Yeah. All right. It's working. Can I hear it? Perfect. Let me get off of there. All right. Perfect. Wanted to make sure everyone can hear this as I'm bumping my gums. So, but yeah, and here's how we solve this. And this is it. It doesn't even matter what side you're talking about, because I've been hearing for all these years about we need to fix the immigration process. We need to fix the immigration. Blah blah blah. But and that's the mantra of the Democratic Party. But if y'all recall, they had the House and the Senate for the first 2 years of Joe Biden's administration. Why no fixes other than just to open the floodgates, which had nothing to do with the Congress? That was just Joe Biden deciding he didn't want to enforce the laws that were already on the books. So why didn't they fix it then? Go back before, and Republicans, same thing, and all of us, I won't say all fix it. Here we've got the House and the Senate. They had it, and the presidency. First 2 years of Donald Trump's first term, same deal, and nothing. They just absolutely refuse to actually fix the problems. So my solution is let's get rid of all of them. Let's start swapping them out, man. Especially our current representative Scott Desjardins, who is just he's going along to get along. Um, they'd he's voting for the CRs. He's voting for yes to raising the debt ceiling. He's walking the party line now. So just trying to stay in office, I guess, instead of actually showing some leadership. And just because you chair I don't know, I'm skeptical. Maybe I'll have a different attitude or point of view. I am a little biased in this, but I don't know. You're 8 terms in, and now you get to be the chairman of a subcommittee, and really, what do? You run the gavel, you know, and control the flow of traffic. Are you leading anything? I don't know. Like I said, outside looking in, my opinion is not so much. Especially, again, eight terms in, I kind of feel like if you actually want to do some leadership and you want to be a part of it and lead, especially as in a formal leadership position, that's second term stuff. Second, third term, you should be deep into some stuff. But again, outside looking in, I will readily admit that, and maybe my attitude changes on it. But back to that, and then again, we don't see, and I'm Republican Party, but what we don't see is leadership to handle these doggone issues and get it out of the Supreme Court. Because again, a whole nother conversation, but living under judicial tyranny, it is up to Congress to legislate and make laws. It is not up to the Congress to legislate. And that's what we have as we go through this interpretation. And it's up to the Congress to write solid legislation and not give tons of leeway to the executive branch to make crap up as they go along. Horrible idea. And it does not lend itself to us as a nation making it another 250 years. It's going to crumble if we continue down this path. So there is that. But yeah, I mean, this Congress can fix it. Fix the doggone birthright citizenship, and let's go. So all right, talk a little bit about that stuff, and let me get my little notes back up. Again, the big thing has been the SAVE Act. There have been some other things going through. Some of it is just, the contrast as far as voting. There are some differences. I'll go back to the House resolution about the slush fund money. One, why in the absolute crap are they using our taxpayer dollars to buy people off hush money about their sexual improprieties? This makes zero sense. And they had the resolution to um, to make this stuff public record. You'd be able to request it, uh, investigations, whatever, and then they scream about the identities of the victims, which it was in this resolution that the identities of the victims would be redacted. And then they talk about due process. Look, dude, don't care. Do not absolutely care. If it comes out, and I understand there's false accusations made all the time, but we should know if you're coming under investigation. it should be I guarantee you, it went to committee. And again, look at the vote. It was like there were only 65 of them that voted in opposite or to make this a rule. The rest of them say, "Oh man, that's a committee to die because we got a lot of nonsense going on up here that we want to cover up." And this is, same thing for the Epstein stuff. Very, very poorly handled. Why is that stuff not out yet? And I've heard the phrases that it would crumble the system. I don't buy that. I think even if we were to get rid of half of these jokers, and that we would still be able to function until some um, emergency elections were held, or in the Senate, that typically your executive there gets to appoint, or out of the House if they have to put together flash election. I think we would be just fine. Yeah, I mean, even, look at these guys right now. What we got going on? They don't have the federal government funded fully. They're dinking around up there with that. It's a train wreck again. And here's some of the stuff that I've been talking about with folks uh, out in the wild here. Is part of it is term limits, but we the people have to not wait on that to fix the problem. And the problem is we'll talk about how great our own representative is, and I see that in this district occasionally. I got to share this. I'll share this story. I was at the VA clinic here in McMinnville yesterday, and I was there on for blood work is what I was getting done. It was routine type stuff. That's where I receive my care currently, and happened to start talking to a guy about this stuff, and his term for our current representative was a douche canoe. So I had to laugh at that. But you'll find people out here that absolutely love the guy and like, oh my gosh, he's great. He's the best thing since sliced bread. Which obviously I've got a different opinion. I'm running the primaries in opposition to him because of the the lousy job I see him doing. And with votes and being being within in the district. So, but we'll talk. You'll see this. Oh my gosh, these guys are great. They're my representative is he's great. But then when we talk about the Congress in general or as a whole, these jokers get a lower approval rating than the press. And they'll go on and on about a presidential approval rating. But again, theirs is, I mean, in the teens, low teens. Oh yeah, Congress is great. These guys suck, man. And they just, yeah, will not get things done. I don't know that they want to. So that's kind of something I've seen out here. And how do you change that? Like, all right, well, how long has our representative been there? Our rep here in the fourth district, this is his eighth term, so it'll be 16 years. I'm telling you right now, that's way too long to be sitting in one position. And he's been on a couple different committees. Like I said, now yeah, he's the chair of a subcommittee. Good job, guy. Um, so it's just like it's time for a fresh set of eyes on this problem and a constitutional lens. They don't care. Look at the legislation that gets passed. It's ridiculous. So, yeah, so the VA stuff, I said I was out there yesterday, and we'll just kind of that a little bit, which, I talk about leadership, and it's not just the title, but the responsibility. We talk about to be present and accountable. And this is one of those times to be present. And our representative had an amazing opportunity on one side of it to be present. On the 20th of March, here in McMinnville, the VA held that town hall for the veterans. And our representative very clearly stated that he was too busy, too busy to come down and stand with us. And at this point, I am optimistic that there is that it could be changed. But if we don't get these, our congressional reps fired up on it, yeah, the VA is just going to steamroll us. And if you're, follow these guys on Facebook and watch the postings, the VA follow them. They're talking about they They cut ribbon down in Chattanooga, opened in the center down there. They're talking about 3 new clinics up in the Clarksville area. Talking about a brand new facility in Cookville. And then what are they doing to us here in McMinnville? They're closing the clinic, and absolutely ridiculous reasons that they talk about, because these are the same exact reasons in the clinics that you'll go to elsewhere. High turnover in personnel. That's how business is done at the VA. And then you can't fire these clowns. So and a lot of these folks do work, but it seems that in certain and more the administrative position, there are those out there that do try, but then you get these jokers that they know they can't be fired, and so that creates an environment that they don't care about us, or they're not interested in really doing their jobs. They may care, but they're not really interested in doing their job, and it's unfortunate. And to those of you out there in the VA that are interested, are doing your job, and to your best ability, thank you. But I'm probably singing to the choir, and nobody will or preaching to the choir, I think is the expression. And unfortunately, those folks, they're working that's their paycheck, so kind of hard to buck that system. But yeah, so it's we should be able to do better for our veterans. I believe we can. I think there's a lot of folks up there that just aren't super interested in it. And then we go through, different administrations, and then, change for the sake of change. And again, this comes back to poor legislation. The, these omnibus bills, it's like, oh my gosh, you got to pass it to see what's in it. This is absolute trash, and it is a horrible way to do business. These, break this stuff out. And this goes back to their rules and how they do business up there. We've allowed it. This is on us. This is on we the people. So, and again, what's the fix? Get motivated. Take a deeper look at your candidates. My focus is federal, but this applies all across the board. And there are some emphasis on your local candidates and local elections, but it's all local, my friends. It all impacts us. You look at just nonsense, absolute nonsense, and they're doing stuff that really hurts us. And some of it, good intention, but whatever. These guys, less government is more better. Okay, so a little bit. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about federal spending. And this is another one of my deals, and a big difference between myself and our incumbent. We have got to stop this deficit spending. And I completely understand that a government budget is a lot different than my household budget, but some things are true regardless of that budget. And deficit spending will bankrupt it. There's no way around it. So as next year, I've got a pretty big class, the tactical response that I'm going to, the small unit tactics class. And in fact, I got to find out exactly what the round count is on it. But either way, I have started purchasing ammunition for this class. I've stacking it on. This video is not to tell you how to buy ammo. Hopefully, we're far enough into this that Al Gore won't get me on it. But I'm just telling you my method. That I'm purchasing it in advance of it, so I'll do a little bit of time. But if I decide to go buck wild and start, buying ridiculous amounts of ammo every month, more, if it exceeds my capacity to buy money or to buy these things off of just our monthly household income, then that's a problem. And then, all right, I got, like most of us, I have a couple credit cards. So then I can put it on the credit card and then get those maxed out, and then I'm making the payments on that, and then I can maybe try some other things, go get some personal loans. I don't know, maybe try and do a HELOC on the house or do all the weird things until I get to a point where nobody is going to give me any more money, and my outflow is in excess of my inflow. and it's bankruptcy. It's I got to go work more. So then, but at some point it pops, and you have to do things different. And part of that difference is then living within your means. Even a government must live within its means. So let's stop that. $2 trillion in the deficit, and then now we got a pretty expensive war popping off. Um, yeah, and we launched astronauts to the moon. I haven't even really looked into that and make the like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I don't. I mean, going to the moon is probably a good idea. I don't know. Uh, some things can be, out of that, but we're going to be pushing for. I think right now we're singing $39 trillion in debt. Another month or so we'll be singing $40 trillion in debt. And this is back to we can figure out how to fund. And I'm sure they'll pass it. $200 billion for this Iran deal that we got going on. And you're telling me we can't keep one clinic in Tennessee open? Um, yeah, we got some twisted up priorities, or we're sending hundreds of millions of dollars to Africa for aid, research, and condoms for Africans, whatever. The absolute nonsense. And you know, whatever other reason, we're sending money to people we actually don't have defense contracts with or defense treaties with. Yeah, it is really time. And I'm not a complete isolationist, but it is time. I mean, what are we getting? Truly, what are we getting for our bases in Europe? The country's been overrun by Islam. You see it going on, and it's that invasion has started here. We're seeing it already. We've already seen terrorist attacks here on American soil, and we're allowing it to happen. Um, we vote these people in, and they're here. They're not here to assimilate that religion. If you're actually practicing it, it does not mesh with a Western culture. And if you think it does, I can't put it any other way. You're stuck on stupid. So, if you're here, if you claim to be, and plenty of non-practicing Christians, but if you're non-practicing Muslim and you're here just doing your thing, that's fine. But if you're doing other things, you're putting together, these enclaves, Dearborn, Dallas, uh, Murfreesboro, 5 times daily. That doesn't jive. That doesn't mesh with our culture. And so, you're taking advantage of the system, and that's not okay either. So, and there are things you can do, county, codes and stuff like that, but we got to get involved. And we as Christians, as conservatives, need to be involved in it and paying attention to what's going on, and showing up, participating in the Republican Party, conservative movements, going to church. That's a big thing. Reading the Bible, knowing what is going on, and and being okay to question some beliefs. I'm stepping through some stuff right now as I read more and learn more. Um, and I think I've got a big shakeup going on for myself a little bit, but I'll and that's fine. We can change with enough information if we're reasonable, rational human beings. We can explore things and look at it critically and objectively and figure it out. So, I keep shaking my little cup up here because this is my mushroom coffee. My rise is what I am currently drinking, and so it gets all you lose a lot of it in the bottom. All right, so that's that. Some ramblings on that, and yeah, I don't know. And me being a veteran, the VA thing really just it burns me up. The closing of this clinic, and I know I went to my American Legion meeting last night, and those guys picked it up. So, hey, awesome. And one of the guys in there picked it up to take the lead. And I'm going to push this over to the VFW too. But as local posts, we need to be sending letters to these guys because this one impacts us. And ask for, come down and talk to us. Well, I want you to come face me and explain to me how, especially, and like I said, for me, and this is any of them, because none of them are like, oh my gosh, I knew this was going on and I've been fighting it for a year and a half, or because we're, 14 months is the thing that's going around. And even in that meeting, the town hall meeting for the veterans, they said they've been surveying this clinic since I think it was 2019 is one of the surveys that they referenced or studies that they did. So this is not a new deal. And some other stuff we need to look at then, because the whole excuse was the it's a third party contractor. Hands off, third party contractor. We can't. That's the trash that the VA is spewing that night. But but back to writing these letters, these guys need to come talk to us and explain to us. First, my first question to my rep is, how in the crap did you not know that this was going on? I know it's because he's not in the district and he's not really concerned. But I give him the opportunity to explain why he didn't know. And then my next question is, why are you not taking the lead to keep this thing open? Congressman John Rose wrote a better letter, and Desjardins jumped on like, oh yeah, I'll sign off on that. Yay me, I'm number. And John Rose isn't even in the district, but in the sixth district, this has potential to impact them. A couple different reasons is that these are some other places. Whatever, I think Hamilton might be the fifth. Is that right? Congressional district, but we're being pushed to Chattanooga and we're being pushed to Cookeville. So the system up there is already overloaded. It chopped us here in McMinnville and Warren County and the surrounding counties, and did not give us enough time to react. I think I don't know. I think it was pretty intentional. I said the public affairs from VA told me personally that they have known about this. They started scheduling that town hall in December, which to me that means the decision was already made. That clinic or that town hall was merely um, it was a goat rope. It was just for show. Like, hey, we had a town hall for you guys to explain, what's going on and answer some questions. And anyway, I think I talked a little bit about that last week. But back to the American Legion, here is going to write a letter. I'm going to push it through our VFW. The surrounding ones actually do these letters and put numbers. Hey, our post has we represent minimum 216. That's our membership. That we're going to let know what's going on and how you did or did not represent us. And send it out to these guys, because that's what these jokers understand is some of these numbers and the voters. It's like, I gotta get elected next time, and I'm gonna keep telling you I'm supporting veterans. Maybe I should actually do things to support veterans. I don't know. Show up to a town hall, show up in the district once in a while, other than a photo op or a Reagan Day dinner. Uh, so anyway, that's where we are with that. All right, I think we're good with that. Okay, another topic here. We'll talk about, and we already hit a little bit, but government transparency and accountability. That whole House resolution, that's another one that burns me up. And no, and part of what I've seen is interesting is that when they want to smack talk each other, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, he's voting with the Democrats." But when it comes to something like this, look it up. I haven't, but when was the last time there was this many that voted? Hey, yeah, let's send this to committee, or bipartisan approved a piece of legislation, or this was just a resolution in the House. When was the last time you had this much agreement on something? And I think it's very telling what it is that they all agreed on. Like, oh my gosh, no, we can't. We can't. You guys out there can't know about all the sexual improprieties and that stuff. Yeah, I straight up would have been voting yes. Like, oh yeah, let's go. The due process thing. Nobody cared about. Was it Joe Kent, that guy? Regardless of what you think of this guy, nobody talked about. Oh my gosh, due process. Somebody leaked it out because it was just an investigation, right? He's only under investigation. He hasn't been convicted of anything. But we're certainly destroying him, in the court of public opinion, and not a peep, not a peep out of these jokers. And what about the victims? What about the victims? And not to minimize the victims, but it's just, you got to look at this stuff and be like, what are these guys even doing? We keep electing them, so we get what we get. Uh, yeah, and it comes back to like I said, the transparency bit. They all do it, and it's sad. It's like why. Here we are. They're still. We're how many months? What are we? We're in April, so April, May, June, July. I guess 6 months. We're halfway. We got half of the fiscal year left. They're still thinking around, and it's the same thing. They'll come up to the end of this. I mean, President Trump had to pick it up and pay our TSA workers. And you got, again, you got a side of this that just is all on board with lawlessness, just absolutely fine with it. And they've said it that their priority is illegals. Like how, that just does that makes zero sense. And Democratic Party keeps electing them. Like and if okay, don't be surprised when you got a war zone like is going on in Chicago. You got these enclaves of Muslims, illegals, and then they'll gloss over. And then wasn't the saw this week about that girl. I think she was Ukrainian that was here and got stabbed in South Carolina. No reason. This dude's here illegally, been here illegally, and just decides to shank the mess out of her. And they're saying that a mural of this girl doesn't represent their values. Just absolute train wreck that we've got going on. And again, how do you? I don't know. Please, somebody, if you can, comment, you see this somewhere, let me know how you justify this stuff, and think that it's okay. Like, oh yeah, we want all these illegals here, and don't again they they pay all these taxes. How about the Somali pirates and all the fraud that is going on? And it's more than just those, Minnesota. It's more than just Minnesota, Wisconsin, whatever. California. It's more than just these places. I'm right here in Tennessee. We've got this fraud going on. There's probably a quality learning center. It's a little less likely, but it goes on. And then we do crap to ourselves that, boondoggles that we try and get into that, a voucher program here in Tennessee. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So, and same thing on state levels. We keep, guys that are allegedly Republican, but they're, and listen to how people talk as far as, government things. What is your job as the representative? My job as a representative in the U.S. House of Representatives is to represent we the people in Washington, D.C., to protect our rights constitutionally. It's to look at that contract, our Constitution, and to make sure that the federal government is staying in those limits. And we've allowed it for the federal government to be involved in a bunch of stuff that it should not be involved in. It should not be involved in. And we've got to start having some hard conversations about this stuff. So, my conversation is not about, oh my gosh, what can I bring to the, how many federal dollars that we raked from other states can we get into Tennessee? We got to go fight and get this. How about we flip the script on this a little bit and how we would be better off with less federal government? They're horrible. They get outside of, again, kind of the analogy I use, and it had a actually it was on the Patriot Punk podcast, Patriot Punch Network, that Daniel's talking about. So my analogy has been is like, hey, we've got the plumbers doing electrician work, and um, he was like, yeah, no, it's more like we've got my teenage babysitter doing the electrician's work, and I think that's probably more accurate. But the point being is that you got the federal government doing something out things outside of the contract, what it's not supposed to be doing. We've been duped into some things because it sounds good, right? It sounds good. And a big topic right now is healthcare, and I answered this at the town hall, but nowhere in the Constitution does it say that it's up to the federal government to manage anything for healthcare. Now we can look at commerce, the commerce clause, but as far as them providing, it's not in there. And you got to look at why our costs are so high. It's because of government involvement and mandated insurance. Should that some of that be regulated? Sure, but not to the point where the government is telling you you have to have it. And then, yeah. So, and if you want to, again, another discussion, go back to the VA, and we talked a little bit about this on that over there. And like I said, that's in the comments there on that Rumble podcast. But this is as close as you can get here to socialized healthcare, the single payer stuff and they control it. You truly have to fight and advocate like in a ridiculous manner. And I think on the other side of it too, just out there um, for regular insurance, you got to go in there and advocate and tell them this is what I need. And I've had that discussion with them. Well, I don't think the VA will pay for it. I don't care. I'm telling you, put in the order for this, the deal. And if it's not covered, then that's on me. So, but that's something the federal government shouldn't be involved in is the healthcare for everybody. It's just it's not in the contract, and they're horrible at it. So let's quit doing it. Your daycare, and this is something that we hear them talking about. Federally, that's how we got a quality learning center. That's how we get out of it. If states want to do this stuff, then that's fine. Federal government should be leaving that money in the states. So we cut that stuff out. How do you prevent fraud from, you don't do stuff you shouldn't be into. The food programs, and again, this is and some of this stuff as we talk about it, we can't just stop cold turkey. Some of it I think we can, but some of it we can't. And we have example after example of how we the people and your entities, governmental and non-governmental, are much better equipped to handle items or issues at those levels. One is you guys remember the shutdown last year, the 44 days or 43 days, whatever it was, and the food stamp program. Those folks got cut off. How did that come in? And nobody starved to death. We saw communities coming together and helping those folks that are less fortunate. And that's where we get wrapped up about like, oh my gosh, you got no compassion for anybody. Well, yes, I do. I just happen to understand that the federal government it's not their job to feed people. That's your local, that's your churches. We've gotten away from that, from us helping, being communities and locally worrying about, who's eating, who's not eating. And then the federal government comes in and wants a lock on this stuff. So then it becomes difficult for, food banks, for, in Tennessee, we've got Second Harvest. I've distribute some of those out, but it is not up to the federal government to feed you. That's, uh, just absolutely is not. Again, push it down to states, push it down to counties, and cities. And, the less tax dollars they take, the better off we are. Healthcare, again, insurance. Let a free market run wild, man. I can't think of the name of it. There's a Christian group that you can jump in on that, and all our needs are different. So all our health is different. So we hear stuff about, oh my gosh, they want to compel a insurance company to take some of these pre-existing conditions. To compel a company to do business like that is just it's bad. That's why the prices start going out of control. So to mitigate that risk, what do they got to do? They got to charge everybody a lot more. It skyrockets. I mean, it's unfortunate for some folks, but that's where your churches and your local community, family, friends come together. Or the other side is, yeah, it's going to be expensive. I mean, look at we're mandated car insurance. You got a teen driver on your policy, you're paying a lot more for that because these folks are more teen drivers are inexperienced and yeah, they're more their propensity for accidents is a lot higher than somebody that's got been driving for however many years with minimal tickets or no tickets or no accidents. You're going to pay a lot less. That's how the game's played. But to think it's up to the government to compel these businesses, to, tell them how to run their organizations, there'll be a market for it. I believe there'd be a market for it if we allow it. All right, my phone is going nuts for some reason. Uh, all right. Looks like it's nothing I got to deal with right away. Okay. Looks like and some of the things to combat some of this stuff, and this actually we're gonna go a little bit out of whack just because I saw what was on here. Our purchasing and it is federal. Some of this stuff and how it trickles down. But on one hand, we're being told that China is the biggest adversary out there. They're a threat to us. Yada yada, communism, all the things. But on the other hand, we are so tied into them economically that if we do Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome and we shut down Bartertown, it's going to be painful. But there's no plan for us to get out. Or there is. President Trump is trying to bring some of this stuff back. But how did we get here in the first place? It was through the Congress, freaking horrible legislation, horrible with other NAFTA, yada yada. Nixon opening up the China market. Let's quit it. Let's put it back. And again, President Trump just went through the deal with the Supreme Court about these tariffs. How can our Congress fix it? And just go through it. Oh, let's do the law because that's a congressional thing for them to do. We've allowed our Congress to abdicate so much of their responsibilities because they're freaking lazy. Like, again, are you kidding me? A dog parade. We're going to do a dog parade in the Senate, clowns. Versus them doing their job and all right, because the tariffs were working. And how do we make it more enticing for these businesses to produce in fact in the United States? Again, why our grid, and this is not state secrets or anything, but our electric grid, we don't manufacture a lot of these components here in this country. The chips. Why do we think Taiwan is such a big deal? Why are we not manufacturing these chips? And the answer is because we pushed it overseas. We pushed it overseas, and and make it so regulatory, such a burden to do these things. It's so expensive they can't compete. I mean, if I put together a factory here in the States and I have to deal with these stinking unions, I have to deal with the federal regulators who don't know what they're doing. I have to IRS, like taxes. I got oh my gosh, these corporations should be paying their fair share and all this nonsense. Or I can I can have this stuff my what's it manufactured overseas. Don't know what the quality is, whatever, and then get it shipped in, and I can sell it competitively versus trying to get it done here in the States, and I can't be competitive. We're bad. And I do believe regionally we should be self-sustaining, self-efficient. Talked about this, why in the world, and it's a little out of region, but why do I not see California avocados? Because our government has set up horrible freaking trade stuff. Why is why are we not raising? Why are we not entirely feeding our country our beef, our pork, our chickens? why do I have to see, why is it a thing that this beef coming in from Mexico? Same thing with our oil. Why in the crap? And I know we're tied to the petrodollar, um, uh, and we should have our own. We should not be trading internally and not dictating our prices. We see what happens. We hear about 20% of the oil going through the Hormuz Strait, and it impacts us. Like, we're not getting any of our oil from here. Okay, well, why the crap? Or am I, here in Middle Tennessee? We'll probably hit. I think it was three. I come by yesterday, $3.89 here in Morrison at the BP that I go to. Absolute clown world. And it comes back to what I'm doing here is we need somebody different, a different set of eyes, someone that actually believes in the Constitution. You got a guy now that can't even tell you, has no clue what what the Constitution says, and don't take my word for it. Go look at some of his statements. He told Matt Murphy he doesn't even know where they get the authority to whichever bill it was. Back, was that last year, or I think it was in 24, talking about the MERV. Like, I don't even know what this stuff means. Holy smokes, dude. You've been up there this long and you got no idea. Just absolute train wreck of a representative. It's sad. And he's not, I wouldn't even classify him as the worst. He does have one of the worst show up and vote records. He's in the top, at least last time I checked, the top 100. Just goes on vacays instead of showing up to vote. The only one I'd give him a pass on was his mother passed away not too awfully long ago. So that one, he gets a pass on that one. But all this other stuff, nah, bro. The calendar says work in the district, so be working in the district, not just popping up randomly for photo ops at places. Schedule stuff out. Let folks do town halls. My commitment is quarterly. Oh yeah, June 13th is the next one. We're looking to get that dialed in. Have some community input for it, and help us decide where and the when. We got the date picked as the 13th. I've already done one in Warren County. I've done one in Coffee County, and now we're looking for. I had one scheduled in Rutherford, but we got iced out. So Rutherford County, here's your chance if you want to do a town hall. And I invite. So this one, our local stuff will be done with our Republican congressional candidates, and our Republican gubernatorial candidates will be invited to do a town hall on the 13th. So we're looking to dial that stuff in, and it's great. I enjoy it. Asking the questions. You don't always get, the standard. We all have different things that we're really concerned about. And if you go back and look at and it's on this one. If I don't have it up, it'll be up. But the town hall that we did in Coffee County, and you'll see myself, other guy running in the Republican primary, Harold Rocky Jones. Just take a look at the difference in how we handle ourselves. I'm biased. I think I'm the better candidate. I know I'm the better candidate, but that's up to you to decide. A guy that can, think here, or a guy that needs to ruffle through all his stuff on the desk and Google, or Chat GPT the questions as we're in real time while we're doing them. And if I don't know, I don't know. I actually that next day I went to the Veterans Day VFW post 10 on there. But if I get an answer I don't have, I'm not going to try and make some crap up. Research some stuff. If I get 2 or 3 or 4 people asking about it, then we push into it. But I've had people ask me about dog catchers. That's not a federal thing, so I'm not going to put any. I'll talk with you a little bit about it and be like, hey, that's a local thing, and try and get you, pointed in the right direction. But that's not something as a congressional representative that, again, it's not the contract. It's not the contract for the federal government to do. So there we go. All right, looks like we just turned 9 o'clock. So with that, you heard me bump my gums. Again, this is going to be a weekly thing we'll keep doing. So let your friends know. We'll do the things. And come up with some stuff and questions that I've heard throughout the district. So I appreciate your time. Whenever you see this, if you do, if you would do the things, you can still, get a comment in or, send us an email or, jump onto Facebook and ask some questions there. Certainly appreciate it all. So there we have it. Until the next one, this will defend.